Everything's going fine. We're going great. Everything's going great. Okay. Can you start with the intro? Because I won't know how
to. So not convincing. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Catholic Youth Ministry Podcast, your home for practical and inspiring formation for your professional vocation. How's it going, Edmund?
It's going great.
We're back.
We
got another exciting episode for you guys. Well, I think it's exciting.
It's really good. It's very practical.
I hope everybody else thinks it's exciting.
No, I think they will. I've never heard people really talk about this much.
Well, I think some people don't really enjoy like the job hunt, or they find it like overly stressful, or people just don't like to talk about themselves. But I enjoyed it a ton.
I like it. It feels like you prep for the Olympics and then you go and perform.
Yeah,
it's kind of fun.
When I was preparing to meet with you, when you guys had hired me, or even the other places, right out of college, like it was fun. Like I think the best advice at that time that I got was to treat my job search as a full-time job.
Interesting, yeah.
And I think that really fueled things for me, because I like itemized things of what I needed to do, like as far as resume and things and stuff like that. So I think that's really going to fuel what's going on here in this podcast.
And I think what we're going to talk about will help people maybe not be as stressed and approach it differently than just trying to desperately look for anyone who will hire you, to being really proactive, and you're actually interviewing parishes. You're looking for the ideal parish to be the home for this missionary call to be a youth minister, to be a director of youth ministry.
Yeah, man. And I think that if you're in desperation mode for a job, that's how you might fall prey to maybe a really bad
100%.
A really bad situation.
A bad salary, a bad coworker situation, a bad budget, you'll fall prey to one of those situations because you're just like, well, this is like the first parish that's ever wanted to hire me, or it's the first parish in a while that's offered me something substantial. And I think, I think we've talked about this before, like there are some parishes and there are some people who might be called to work part-time at a parish, or maybe not get paid a whole lot, or maybe different parts of the world, or different countries where parish youth ministry, like full-time parish youth ministry, is not a sustainable thing. But in this podcast, the context we're talking about is youth ministry in the United States, and for people who feel called to full-time director of youth ministry, this missionary call, and working at a parish over the long term. And if you're going to work in the long term at a parish and parish youth ministry, you need to be able to sustain probably a family. You need to be able to sustain yourself, and it needs to be a healthy environment. And we're not talking about just looking for super high-paying jobs. We're just talking about like a just wage and a healthy work environment.
Yeah, definitely. So in this episode, we're going to talk about finding the youth ministry job, preparing for the interview, and actually the interview itself, like what to do, what to prepare, what to bring, and life afterwards too. Yeah. But I do want to say that if you are in a job right now and maybe you settled on that job out of desperation, like that's like you're still okay.
Yeah.
Like you're still okay. God's going to use this opportunity for you, and obviously what needs to happen, especially if you were encountering some of those issues or struggles like a budget or people, or perhaps as the pastor or business manager, things like that.
Well, I'm glad you're saying that, because I think it's also good for us to just think both as an interviewer and as an interviewee, like to start wrapping your mind around what is it that your boss is thinking as they, like maybe after they hired you, right? Like, and as you're working there. So just thinking, and that's some of our experience, right? Like we've both applied for and interviewed for multiple youth ministry positions. We've worked at multiple parishes, and then I've also hired multiple youth ministers in different parishes. So I think this is a good episode. We can bring a lot of value, and you can hear both sides of it, from the one hand of going through the interview, getting multiple jobs, and then on the other hand of like, what were we looking for in youth ministers?
And maybe you aren't in a great situation. Maybe you do want to transition or transfer to a different parish, maybe a different diocese, something like that. This will still hold a ton of value for you too. I just want to say, for that listener though, just because you're leaving or considering leaving this parish doesn't mean that the other parish isn't going to have perhaps the same issues. It just might be a whole different like category of issues too. Yeah. And so this whole like kind of notion of like, oh, well, the grass is greener over there.
Yeah.
I would really wrestle like prayerfully, like, is this grass green, and you're just not seeing it for what it is.
Yeah.
And you're just clouded by like the illusion by, just like of what is wrong currently where you're at, and just saying, but it's going to be better over there. It's going to be better. And that pursuit of being better is always great.
Yeah.
Because we're always pursuing a higher virtue. But anyway, let's get into this.
Well, I think what you're talking about goes well into our first point, is that the first step is, going off of last episode, discerning this missionary call to parish youth ministry, and then praying about, where is God calling you? Is God calling you to a particular part of the nation? Is God calling you to be in your hometown? Is God, and what type of parish? What is the ideal parish? Not in the sense of like it has a helicopter pad and it pays its youth minister six figures and all that stuff, but just like, what, like, do you feel your heart for a college campus parish, or for a rural parish, or for a parish in Philly, or a parish in Atlanta, or a parish in Florida? Like,
good questions.
Yeah, what
is there a Walmart nearby?
Is there, how many Papa John's are within 10 miles?
Exactly.
These are important questions.
Super important questions.
How many Starbucks per?
Is there a Whole Foods nearby? Yeah. Because you need to take care of yourself as a youth minister. You can't eat that pizza twice a week.
How available are Ubers? Yep. How available are the Ubers nearby? Yeah. So, I mean, I would start first, before everything, is prayerfully discerning, where is God calling you? And then secondly, kind of sketch out, like, what's an outline of your ideal parish? Are you do you feel God calling you to go to a parish that doesn't have a sustained or long history of youth ministry, and maybe to build? The first time I got into youth ministry, I felt very strongly about going to a parish that didn't have anything. Sure. And my wife and I were willing to go anywhere in the nation to a parish. You might feel really strongly that you want to go to a parish where you can learn under someone for, 3 to 5 years.
That's what I did.
Yeah. And eventually, move up or move to a bigger parish or whatever. Yeah. Like, that might be really important to you. So I would just outline a few of those things. What other things might you be looking for in a parish, Nick?
Me?
Yeah. Like
right now?
What other things would you
I'm happy where I am.
What other things would you be telling people to look for in parish, like job openings for youth ministry? I mean, obviously a valid salary. I also
sure, yeah. I would definitely look up the benefits package. Like the diocese ought to have one, just posted. I would really look through those things. Perhaps, I mean, just like making yourself known to other people, letting other people know that you're also looking too, so they could also like inform you of what's happening too. Like when I was coming back to this diocese from being in Minnesota, I contacted a mentor in the faith, and I know he cares about me, and I knew that he would be honest with me too. And so I said, like, look, I've got these 3 prospective parishes that are interested in me, and I'm set to interview with them at different times. And I was like, hey, so-and-so, we'll call him Mike. That's not his name. And so I was like, Mike, what can you tell me about these parishes? And I want your I want your professional opinion, and then I also want your personal and honest opinion too. Yeah. And I thanked him so much for it too. And when it came down to decide, like, I was in a really good spot too, because all 3 of them gave me an offer letter. And Mike said, or Mark, whatever name I just gave him. Yeah. He was like, well, you should probably go to this parish, but if I were being selfish, I would want you to go to this one, because in my tenure here in the diocese, they've never had someone like you. And so you could go there. Yeah. But I'm just saying it. Don't let that influence you too much. Yeah, I mean,
that's where it's important to pray through. Like, is God calling you to that particular context? Yeah.
Right. I mean, and it was really, I'm not really answering your question. I'm so sorry about that. But it was really nice to hear from somebody who I knew had been in the diocese for so long and kind of knew the people around too, because he was able to inform things about the parish, and it kind of like solidified what I actually wanted, like in a youth ministry, and how and how to grow too. I think the Lord's really speaking me through Mike or Mark and or whatever.
That's a good transition into where do you find these jobs? And I think it's really important to reach out to your network, to reach out to friends and family, and let people know that you're looking for a job. You're looking for a youth ministry position. Right. We're looking for a full-time position. And then there are other places you can look. Diocesan websites are going to have either human resource tabs or employment tabs. I would even often I would do like Google searches of a particular diocesan website for like the tab. I would real quickly like look for human resources, employment, or job opportunities, and you can see listings. So those are places to look. Parish websites as well. Lifeteen.com has job boards. I think CatholicJobs.com has listings of youth ministers. So there are some of these job boards you can look into. Those will kind of change. I think some of the value that we can bring is that I think people often underestimate the power of just cold emailing or cold contacting either diocesan employees or pastors.
Right.
And just saying, like, if there's a particular, like, let's say you feel really strongly about looking for a youth ministry position in Cleveland, I wouldn't wait until those parishes or that diocese has openings. I would just immediately like let people know. Email, like copy the pastor and the DRE or the pastor and the youth minister and just say, hey, like I would love to someday work at a parish like yours. If you know of any opportunities that are coming up, please let me know. Here's my resume.
Right. Right. Or even other ministries, you know, that are well known, like in the States, like, and, you know, parishes that are subscribed to these ministries or use the services. They even contact like the directors of these ministries saying like, hey, I'm looking for this. If you know of any of your own who are transitioning out, you know, back into the real world from being a missionary or something like that, like send me their info or things like that. So that was the first thing that I did when I was at St. Thomas. I hadn't graduated yet, and I sent my resume to Mark Burcham, who's the founder and director of Net Ministries, and I said like, hey, I'm starting a plan, and I've itemized a bunch of things, and this is on my to-do list, so I'm passing it on. If you hear of anything or know of anybody who is looking, just if you could, just pass it along. Yeah. And he did. And I had some guy from a pastor from Alaska contact me.
That's cool.
One from Ohio contact me. A few from California contact me. It was just really fun. It was actually really good practice to just be on the phone with them too, and to start getting the habit of selling myself and talking about myself. Yeah. And just what I would do, what I would provide, and that narrowed down like exactly what was important to me, which I think at that time, I don't think I could have answered what I was looking for in a parish. I think I know now of like what I would look for in a parish, and it was all those things that we brought up that could be foreseeable issues. Yeah. Like staff dysfunction, not being able to communicate adequately with your pastor about what to do, perhaps a budget issue, or perhaps like there's just not a clear understanding of what the mission of the church is. Yeah, like maybe they've just always been there. And so I know that now, but like getting out of college, I honestly just was I think very young and just very full of missionary zeal that I just wanted to go somewhere. Yeah. Like Lord, you've prepped me through being a missionary and then campus ministry at the university, and now studying this, like having this double major, and like Lord, just, you know, like send me now, like I'm ready to be co-missioned, send me, and it's going to be great. And so that's what led to me just contacting Mark and just say, hey, blast my resume wherever, whoever asks, and I'm going to start talking to people. But like how it actually happened was some place that I wasn't looking at all, they just ended up contacting me. Yeah. And then lo and behold, I ended up working with you for 3 years, and it was awesome.
Well, and I think the important point to take away from that is that I think you hear it all the time, like you should use your network, you know, but I think especially in the Catholic world, like people underestimate how connected everyone is. And a lot of times with youth ministry positions, pastors or diocesan employees, like the director of evangelization, the director of youth ministry, they'll be aware of a transition coming up. They might unofficially, informally just be aware that like so-and-so is looking to come, you know, transition out, but they haven't yet put something together. So it would be smart to just cold email a few people. When you're going to cold email people, a few tips is make the email short, put something in there that makes it seem like you're not just spamming people. So it's just like I would copy the pastor and maybe a few other people, you know, maybe the secretary and the DRE or someone on staff, a few other people on staff, and just make it real short. Hey, you know, really love what your parish is doing. I would love to work at a parish like yours one day. You know, if you hear of any youth ministry positions, I'm looking. Attaches my resume. Here's my cell phone number. Yeah. You know, and just real simple. that would be huge. I mean, you could do that for diocesan employees. I mean, I would just like spread it across that whole area.
Right. I like that. Actually, include like a digital, gift card in there. Just include a little $5 digital gift card to Joanne's.
Yeah. I mean, and do send a resume. The cover letter depends on I would just send at least a resume. And then if you have any portfolio or extras of things you've made in the past, it could be anything. I mean, literally, like, I wouldn't overthink it, but if you've designed a flyer, if you've put together a plan for youth ministry, at Franciscan, we had to write curriculums. So I would just pass that along. Like, here's my portfolio of a curriculum, a life night I wrote, and like a flyer I designed, or any of those things are good extras to send in, saying that, or showing that you're prepared, that you're thoughtful about this, and you're really, you're really excited about youth ministry, I guess.
Yeah.
Some other things that we mentioned before that we've talked about is that I think Bob Rice said, if they're not willing to fly you out, one of the big red flags is that if they're not willing to fly you out and they start getting really sketchy about wanting you to just come, like, swing by and you're pretty far away, like, well, just drive 4 hours down here. That's like a sign that maybe, I mean, it's not necessarily, but that could be a sign that they don't value this position,
or just investment in youth ministry is not there.
They're not seeing it as
that's
a full-time,
just a small little tell.
Yeah, they're not seeing it as a full-time position. They're seeing it as like, this is just like a little thing we need someone to do.
Yeah, this is just something we have, and we need to satisfy that need.
Another thing I would look for, and I know, part of the theme of this podcast is raising the bar for Catholic youth ministry, and I know a lot of people might not have this, but I would definitely I would be much more drawn to job openings that list a bachelor's degree at least as a requirement for the job. I think at least, like, if a position at least says bachelor's degree in theology or equivalent, or in catechetics, or in some type of youth ministry or religious education, I think at least. I mean, if I saw a job description that said nothing about that and was just like, any experience, I would just be cautious against that.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I think if I were to have seen that, like, coming out of college, I don't think I would have thought twice about it. I would have just been like, oh, great. Like, then I'm more than qualified. So then let's get in there, But you're saying that might not be the best place for you.
Yeah, it's just something to think about, right?
Yeah,
it's like to ask more about what is, and then to have that follow-up phone call and have a question.
That's like, really good.
What's your vision of this position? Is this a full-time position? Like, what's the budget of this position?
Yeah, I mean, like, who knows? Maybe a new pastor just got transitioned to that parish, and somebody else wrote that job description. He didn't have a chance to get his say before it was released, but now he's there, and then you go in for the interview, and like, he's amazing, and he's clarifying stuff on the job. Yeah, so like, it can mean a lot of things, but that's a really good point to just not forget that you read that.
Yeah, and
no experience required.
Yeah, right. And not to overwhelm you as well, but just, I mean, for the sake of other youth ministers out there, when you have a bad experience with an interview, I mean, that's an opportunity for you to advocate for people that are trying to do parish youth ministry full time. So if someone says, yeah, we're going to pay you $10,000 a year, like, that's an opportunity for you to say, hey, like, I'm not interested in this position, but not only that, like, I just want to tell you that sounds really, really low.
Yeah.
And like, I don't think you're going to get what you want for that. So, you know what I mean? Like, not that you have to do that, but I think there's definitely an opportunity for you to advocate for youth ministers and just say, hey guys, this isn't going to help your parish.
I mean, do you remember that? So
yes,
I think a year and a half while we were working together, another parish wanted me to go work for them. And, and I just went for more information. Turned out, like, I didn't go for more information. They were already ready to interview me. They had a board there and everything. I didn't come like in attire or I didn't come with anything too.
Yeah.
And I figured out that they were interviewing me on the spot. They had me meet with the school principal, the pastor, another board, and things like that, and individual meetings as well.
Yeah.
And what they were doing is they were pulling the salary half from the parish, half from the school.
Oh, yeah.
And that was like an immediate like red flag to me. And so I told the principal of the school, and then I told the pastor like separately, because that's how they opted to do it. They wanted separate meetings. And I told them, like, I'm not sure if I'm the right person for this position, if that's how like the salary is going to be set up and that it's going to be split like that. I was like, I don't understand how that's going to work. especially when the school has needs and the parish has needs too. And it was just really interesting. And so I felt like that was an opportunity to do what you were saying, to advocate for youth ministry and say that I think the parish alone needs to be paying the salary, because I think everything ought to be funneled in through the parish. It's good to have like a good school stuff going on. But
so let's say you find a fantastic, job opening.
Yes.
You're really excited for this.
Are you asking me right now?
Well, no, I'm just setting it. I'm just setting up the next. Like we're kind of.
You're like, you had me. You're like, let's say. I was like, okay, let's say.
All right, let's spitball this here.
Try it again.
Well, let's say.
Okay.
You find a job opening that you're interested in.
Wow.
You reach out, email.
Yeah.
They get on the phone with you. So oftentimes they
free of grammatical errors.
Oh yeah, it was great. Oftentimes they want to first maybe a phone call,
right,
with someone, and then if you pass that, they're going to set up some type of in-person interview or maybe over Skype.
Yeah.
My first ever interview was over Skype with my parents, like peeking in through the door.
Yeah, that's awkward.
Yeah, it was very awkward.
That's weird.
So you're going to send your resume. You're going to set a time to show up, and this is where the bulk of the work of this whole interview process, I think, comes in, is preparing for the interview.
Yeah.
And I think you and I both agree that most people do not over prepare. Most people don't prepare enough. And I think the ideal amount of preparation is being over prepared, being like really, really over prepared.
Yeah. And how would one do that?
I mean, well, we have tons of ideas, right? But I mean,
just go through the staff directory, learn every single name, last name, where they're from, their address.
Yep. Well, I mean, you could look, I mean, for sure, I always recommend that people get a little familiar with the parish staff. So like, how many associate pastors are there? What are some of the key employees' names? And not that you have to freak yourself out memorizing it all, but just prime your brain with that information. Yeah. Maybe a week out, and then day of, morning of, just run through it all, just so that you'll have some of these tidbits of information in the back of your head. You'll be primed for the interview. So you can also find, and we're going real deep. We're showing all, like if we were just talking to friends, I mean, we're just sharing all the secrets here, but you can find financial statements often in their bulletin.
Yeah. You can see and just kind of average it out, like what kind of collection.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that you have to be like, oh, well, this was 40,000, it should be 50, but just have a general sense of like, what's going on? Is it going up? Is it going down? Are they in debt? Did they just get out of debt? Did they have a capital campaign 2 years ago that they're now following through on? Those types of things are just context for you to have and be over prepared and show that you care about this position when you walk in.
Yeah, I think when I was first preparing for like my initial interviews right out of college, like I would actually Google the pastor's name.
Oh yeah.
Like Google and see if there's anything on YouTube too, just to see them preach.
Oh, we're going deep. I mean, we're going deep into Facebook stalking. I mean, we're going deep into
it's like private investigator level.
Yeah. I mean,
like their tax records, just stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's super important.
I would download like 3 of the most recent bulletins and then go back like a year and find like another bulletin and just kind of look. I would just just see what was going on.
Yeah, what's really important about like looking through like the staff and like actually like learning the names, because if I'm on the phone with somebody and they're saying like, yes, we're excited to have like a video like chat with you guys, this person are going to be there too. Like, or if they don't listen, I would ask like who else is going to be involved, and then just like look up like on the website who those people are, write that down. And then also I would take inventory of anything else that the website is showing you, or even like the parish's social media, take inventory of like all ministries, and then even who's over what too.
And definitely the youth ministry, the status of youth ministry, right? So like, a really good trick, and I'm just thinking, especially this episode, helping people, coming right out of college or coming out of some like other ministry experience into youth ministry. Just a shorthand trick is to take the confirmation class of the previous year and then multiply that by 4, right? So if they have 50 kids, they might have about the potential of 200 kids in their youth ministry program, right? High school. If confirmation's in 10th grade and they have 50 kids, then ideally, if everyone was coming in every grade as strongly, then like you just have a ballpark, right? If they confirmed 5 kids, then you're like, okay, their youth ministry like capacity, it seems like, might not be, it might be 20 kids, right? That's the math, right? So you're just like kind of looking up some of those things. I would also look up local parishes, like how close are other parishes and what are their sizes in comparison. That's just more information, right? If there's a medium-sized parish next to a mega parish, that's something that's going to play into the dynamics of what the pastor's thinking about, what the youth minister or whoever on staff is thinking about. It's just important.
Right, too.
And I think part of all of this is not to get stressed out about the interview, but just to communicate to the people, like to communicate in the interview that you have a nuanced and thoughtful outlook on ministry, and that you care, like that you care about more than just showing up and running a Bible study, that you care about the parish.
Yeah. I mean, but then also this is like we haven't even gotten to like the actual, like the main content, like of the interview itself, and like how to even like prepare for that.
Yeah.
You know, because if you're fresh out of college and I guess you're just kind of like me, you're just like, Lord, just send me now.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't really have a plan for youth ministry. I think I just knew how to do ministry. And so then I was left talking about just what was important to me, and not what could be like a path, or what could be important to the overall parish, and how the youth ministry fits into that. I didn't know that, or I didn't know how to do that. I didn't even have the language to describe that. I just wanted to be holy and make other people holy too. Yeah. You know, and especially if you run into like a pastor or a parish that wants, you know, let's say they have like huge, you know, non-Catholic churches nearby, and they're just suffering too, like, and they want results. Maybe the last thing that the pastor wants to hear is how in love with Mary you are through the rosary, you know? And like, those are good things too. Yeah. But like when we're saying to take inventory of the ministries, take inventory of like the staff and the pastor, do your research, do your homework. Like, you might not want to lead with the rosary there, you know, especially like in that scenario where they're just being like bombarded or just competing so much to just keep their own adolescent Catholics
100%. There. Yeah, and a lot of staff are not, I mean, you have to understand that most staff are not going to fully understand what a really good vision for youth ministry might be at a parish. I mean, they might have just seen other parishes with thriving youth ministries and think, we want that. Yeah. Or maybe they've had a long history of youth ministry and they want it to just continue exactly how it is. These are all things to take into consideration. So to be cognizant of how people are coming to this idea of youth ministry, I think is really important.
Yeah. I think also like in preparing for the actual interview, or the video interview, or maybe an in-person one, if you do get them on the phone at any point, I would try to extract like any sort of information that you could use during that interview. Because whatever, it's just like a little sales, like little technique, tactic, whatever they say, like you echo it back to them, you know, as far as like somehow extract a need that they're looking for, and then frame like your youth ministry argument, like that's centered around you, because they want you there, or hopefully they want you there, back to that. So just echo it back. And then they're just left thinking like, oh yeah, they're on board with everything. Yeah. We're saying that too, you know.
They're reading our minds.
The second interview that I ever had, I was still in college, and it was like a long shot too. They wanted to hire immediately, but I wasn't available for like 4 more months. And so I just did it anyway. And I researched, and I saw that they were using whatever confirmation program it was. It's the
Chosen.
No, it wasn't Chosen. It was the one with
That Man Is You.
Christ on the very front, the icon, the Patocrator.
Yeah, be the best version of yourself.
No, shut up. It was that one, but I researched online and I saw that that's what they were using, and coincidentally, I was also using that with some other Hispanic kids in Minneapolis, because that's half my St. Thomas education was paid for the Latino Leaders of America.
Wow.
I just made that up, but not the Latino Leaders of America. It was the Habiger Institute for Catholic Latino Leaders. Anyway, so we were at a Latino parish, and I was a catechist there, and we used that same book. So I brought that book to the interview too. And as I pulled it out, like some lady on staff was like, oh, we use that.
You're like, oh, you mean my personal daily devotional book that I pray every day?
Yeah, you know,
is that what you mean?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so Edmund, what should they be doing? Actually, are we done for like preparing?
Well, I mean, I think let's talk about. Well, you brought up a good point about if
I
you're
always
gonna
bring up good points.
If you're going to be in person, it reminded me when you're talking about if it's going to be in person. Reminded me that if you are local, I would take a chance to go to one of the masses.
Oh,
or go to some of the masses. And then,
that's easy. Yeah, good one.
Just kind of get a sense of the parish. And then also, like ask a parishioner, like, what do you know, how long you've been going here? What do you like about the parish? You know, what don't you like? What are the biggest challenges currently? But just going to some of the different masses would be a good sense.
The best advice that I ever got on like finding a spiritual director, I would also apply to finding yourself a pastor.
Okay.
And I was told that never, what's happening?
I don't know. I'm just excited. I'm excited for this pithy.
Both of you just started like a giggle fit, like at the.
Never ask for a pastor on a Tuesday. I thought I was like waiting for some like cliche.
No.
Never look for one on CatholicMatch.com.
No, the best no. The best advice I ever got about looking for a spiritual director was to go to a mass that they were celebrating, and if they did not appear that they were in love with the Eucharist, to not pursue direction from them.
Yeah, I got you.
And if you were kind of spiritually convinced, maybe your guardian angels were talking to each other, I don't know.
Yeah.
Then to pursue and ask.
Yeah.
You know, would you pray with me about being my spiritual director? Yeah. And I would have that same mentality in going to that parish, and seeing if that pastor or whoever's the celebrant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are they in love
with
our Lord as they're celebrating?
That's awesome. Yeah. Visit Jesus in the Eucharist there. Visit Jesus in the tabernacle there at the parish.
Mm-hmm. And don't be bogged down by the wicker chairs that are there. You know, sometimes, you know, or the
wicker chairs
or the you know, like
in the sanctuary.
In the church. Don't be bogged down by that. Or don't get bogged down by the lack of, you know, like sacred art in the church. You know, but if the pastor is in love with our Lord,
who cares if it's the church in the round?
Yeah, you know, or what's
spaceship? The spaceship church?
Well, I'm a little into that. Just kidding. No. It's like when the altar's kind of like sunken into the
like stadium seating.
Yes. Yeah.
Moving on. What should you bring? What should you bring to your interview? Your best clothes?
Yeah.
I would dress up. I mean, I wouldn't go
perhaps
over the top
an extra change of underwear. You know?
You
never know. You never know.
I wouldn't overdress in like a tuxedo and stuff. But I definitely think dressing
eat something light.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I used to not be on board with this. I was just like, I'm just gonna dress as myself. But
jeans
I think
and flip flops.
Yeah, but I think like dressing like you are a director of youth ministry at a parish, I think is important. Sure. And, you know, having a professional appearance. So just to say that, I know some people are like, oh, the youth minister should wear flannel and flip-flops and jeans, but don't do that. And then we've talked about bringing copies. I would bring multiple copies, like bring a little folder with multiple copies of your resume.
Yep.
Multiple copies of whatever portfolio. So whatever materials you might have. And then do we want to go over these two things? I would also bring just like a 1-pager of an articulation of your vision for youth ministry. It doesn't have to be over the top, but it could just be like, and I always went way over the top, but I would adjust it a little bit depending on the parish. So if the parish had a really long standing youth ministry program, the way I would articulate a vision for youth ministry might be a little more nuanced than a parish that's never had it. Mm-hmm. Right. So a parish that's never had it, I might really focus on like recruiting volunteers as youth ministers, preaching the gospel in an engaging way, and like one other thing. Right. So I think those two things, and we'll talk about how to use those in the interview, but I think just coming with that kind of stuff prepared is really important.
Yeah. I think also just to add, to also use like kind of like an open language as well.
Yeah.
Like just like inclusive of direction of the parish too.
Yeah, you've always done a good job of saying
if you're
that.
Too like specific and adamant
exactly
that this is how it's going to be, that could, I mean, if that were me, if I were pastor, like, and that was really clashing with what I wanted, you know,
you've always done a really
I would just
good job.
be really, really open, just like
I've noticed
with pastor's approval or with guidance.
You've always said like, here's what's on my heart for ministry at a parish, but this is all working with the pastor and working with the parish for what's best for this parish.
Yeah, somehow if that could be articulated too. Yeah. Like, again, having it all ready, I would.
Oh, another thing we didn't mention is researching the local city and just being kind of aware of what's going on if it's a city that you don't live in.
Yeah, exactly. Because if in your plan, you're like, by the end of year 1, we're going to have 1,000 kids coming to this, like youth night, and the population of the city's like 10,000.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
That'd be rough.
do your homework.
Okay, so you've researched the parish, you've researched the city, also the diocesan website. I would look at the diocesan website and kind of see like who's the diocesan director of youth ministry, look a little bit at the diocese and the bishop. So you've researched, you prepared, you've come early. I've definitely come early, a few hours early for your interview and just kind of prepare, just kind of get a feel for the parish and the grounds. So now we're going into the interview.
Yeah, just as soon as you pull up, just Dwight Schrute it. Just turn on just like an 80s hair metal and just headbang a little bit. Hype yourself up. You know?
Yeah. We wrote down walk in like you own the place.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure you wrote that down.
Yeah. The type of mindset I kind of get into is,
I'm just a humble servant. I just walk in and just say,
no, honestly,
Lord use me.
I don't.
Edmund says,
not.
I own this place.
No, I really honestly for some reason, and I don't know if this helps people listening, but when I go in for interviews, I really go in like,
no, you have to. Yeah.
I don't necessarily, like, I think the last thing you can do is go in thinking, I need this job. This is maybe, hopefully they'll offer it to me. And I think you need to go in thinking not only are they interviewing you, but you're interviewing them. Yeah. You're going to use this interview to find out if this is a good fit for you. Is this a good fit for your family if you're married? Is this a good fit for the long term? Yeah. And so it's definitely a discernment process. It's kind of this courting. And so you walk in going, this interview is going to be both of us talking about parish youth ministry, helping each other. And we're just in here to like, I'm great. I've done all this preparation. I'm over prepared. I know what I'm talking about. I love youth ministry, and I'm just here to have this conversation.
I think if you're there for the interview, then that means you want that job.
Yeah.
Because I think you will produce the best, display of yourself in that interview, and case by case.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that if you're just like, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. I'm not saying to just not interview for it, like case by case situation, but I think I would go in with the mentality of like, if I'm interviewing, I want this.
Yeah. Yeah. And go in. I also think sometimes people fall into the trap of thinking that they have to be the expert and have to have all the answers. I think just go in with I'm going to say this word, but I mean like go in with like a playful, joyful, curious attitude. Like, tell me more about this. I'm excited. I'm happy to be here.
Sure.
Like,
even if you're on the fence, you just convince yourself, I want this job for them because they need to see that. That interview board needs to see that.
I'm really interested in this job. I'm not in desperation. I really want to just have this conversation about youth ministry. We've talked about coming in early, dressing for success, having a folder. I'd also have a notepad and pen to write. So there's been times where I've forgotten that, and I've had to be like scramble to find something to write on. But I would take notes during the interview.
Move, man.
When they're asking you questions, taking notes. When other people are talking, taking notes. That shows that you're really engaged.
Yeah. For preparing for the interview?
Yeah, go for it.
Sorry, I completely forgot about this. You should prepare like a list of questions for them.
Yes, 100%.
Just like in advance, because you don't want to get in a situation where it's like the interview's like almost over. Yeah. And they're like, well, do you have any questions for us? And then you're just like, well, no, I think we talked about all of it. Like, no, like that would be so bad to like start scrambling, just thinking about a question. But no,
you should at least have 3 to 5.
Yes. Yeah. Have some prepared. Yeah. And if they ask you one of those questions, like it would be amazing to say, like, I was going to ask you guys that. I'm really glad you brought that up. So like, look, it's right here. I wrote it down.
I would show it to them and I'd hand out copies.
Yeah, everybody read it. Class.
Yeah.
Let the record show.
Another thing, just that this is just general interview advice. It's always good to affirm questions, especially oftentimes in interviews like this, they might bring in teens, they might bring in parents. They're going to get, they might bring in other people that aren't necessarily making the decision, but they want to get their perspective on you as a potential youth minister. Yep. So people sometimes are nervous or people don't know what kind of questions to ask, but I always like to just affirm interviews or affirm questions.
You know what, everybody? I'm really glad we're all doing this here. I want to affirm you guys.
Affirm that you're interviewing.
Really putting that job description out.
You really came today. You really dressed up. But no, like I think it's good when people ask questions, not to just do it, not in a heartfelt way, but when people ask good questions, I like to say, that's a really good question. I really appreciate you asking that, Karen.
Karen.
I've already researched and I know that you're the secretary and you've been here 10 years.
Yes. And his best friends from Susan Susan from the parish council.
And going off of that, I would always use questions that people are, this is maybe too nuanced, but for people who are like, don't have as much experience, but I would always use questions to try to steer away from granular details towards vision. Okay. So like if someone says, like I had this question in an interview once. Let's say you had a room full of 6th graders and they didn't want to do anything. What would you do to, like, what game would you play with them to get their attention? So I was like, okay, like I could just, so I just like came up with a game, but I used it as an opportunity to say, well, with 6th graders, this is what I think works best at that age range. And like, here's my heart for 6th graders and what they really need. So, I mean, don't get caught. They're like, sometimes people that aren't as experienced in youth ministry, they're going to get caught up in like, are you gonna do games before or after the night? Are you gonna offer donuts or pizza? Are you gonna? So it gives you an opportunity. You can answer the question and then turn back to your casting vision. You're casting a clear and compelling vision for youth ministry at a parish.
Yeah, I mean, and the interview staff are looking for depth in you. Like they could be asking a very superficial question just to see what you do with it too. I mean, these people are smart. They've worked for a parish for a while, and they probably have a good idea of what they want too. This is if you've vetted the parish enough, and this is a worthy enough parish for you. But I would also like add to that, like just think. Maybe I'll get some hate for this, but like think like a politician, like in answering those questions. Like if you're unsure about how to answer, like answer honestly, but also lead it back to what you do know and what you would provide for the parish too. And so always turn around, wrap it back to you and what, you know, those core 3 things are that you prepared, that you've already written out, that everybody already has, you know, to review.
And be honest too. Like if you feel like there's not youth ministry at the parish and you feel like all they're doing is a social event once a month and you don't think that's something like you want to add more, don't hedge that. Don't be blunt, but be honest. Like I think there's a lot of potential for us to do this. I would like to bring that here, because the last thing you want to do is get hired under false pretenses of you, like you're so affirming and glowing in the interview that they're like, well, when we hired you, you sounded like everything was great and you're just going to keep it the same. And then you're stuck in this like you want to change everything. I just hear too many youth ministers that get caught up in that, where they're like, oh, my pastor doesn't understand my vision for this. And when you ask how the interview went, they didn't share any of their vision. They didn't share what they wanted to change or what they wanted to bring to the parish. We didn't talk a little bit about preparing a 5 to 10 minute talk. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. No, you love this.
So I really love this. And then we'll get into like questions to ask them, because we're kind of starting to wrap up a little bit, but,
let's wrap up.
Well, actually, no, I'll wait. I'll save that.
Yeah, let's go on for 20 more minutes.
I'll save that for what I look for in a youth minister and what we might look for in a youth minister to be like hiring, so they can hear from someone who's like hired people.
I'll give that to you.
Let's go straight into the questions that we would ask them. So like you've gone through the interview, they've asked you a bunch of different questions, and then they say, do you have any questions for us? The pastor's there, the business manager, and maybe like either the old youth minister or the DRE or someone, and they say, do you have any questions for us? What are some questions that you would ask?
First one, top one for me is, how do you guys measure success here?
Yes, huge.
How do you quantify it?
Yeah.
You know,
how do you measure success?
Yeah, through that, you figure out what's actually important,
and don't let them say, well, you know, everyone's spiritual journey, that's not something you can really measure. You say, oh, I totally understand that, but how will you know that I'm doing a really good job?
Yeah,
that's an amazing question to ask. Like what will tell you, Father, or what will tell you, DRE, who's hiring me? What will be markers that you'll look at and go, wow, this person's really crushing it? You know, that's an amazing nuanced question that shows that you care, but you also have an understanding that like you don't want them to hate the work that you're doing. Like you want them to be really upfront about what they're looking for. What else would you ask?
I don't know. Like this one sounds like pretty stereotypical, like in my head, but just asking like what event, if any, that you've done as a parish staff, like just like y'all just crushed it. Like what was that?
Yeah.
How did that event come about? Like how did y'all prepare for it? Things like that. Like I would love to hear that. Something that would not be in the bulletin.
Yeah.
Or maybe that happened like maybe years ago.
Yeah.
You know, and they're dreaming of doing it again.
Yeah. What's been a huge success that the outcome seem to surprise you.
Sure. And if they say something that is really profound and then you just authentically love it, voice that. Just say like, wow,
that's awesome.
Like I love that.
Yeah.
And you're confirming like that I want to be here at this parish.
Yeah.
If this is what you guys are pursuing, I want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
I want to be a part of that team.
A few quick ones that are just good to get, out the gate is who will be my direct report? Who will I directly report to? So whether it's the DRE or the pastor, if it says, the pastor, then I would feel it out, but you might follow up with like, how often would we meet? How often would you want to meet with me? How often would you want to give direction?
Yeah, you're essentially asking the deeper question of just like, hey, pastor, what's my relationship going to be like with you?
What's that role going to be like?
Because this is important to me.
Exactly.
What exactly do you have in mind in that?
Another one is how will budget decisions be made? So just saying, every parish has a process for proposing budgets for a department or an account number or whatever for the youth ministry. And then how will those decisions get made? What's the process for that? Does the youth minister normally, propose the budget? Does it stay the same? Is someone else involved with it? Different parishes have different interactions with their budget process, but I think that's a really good question to ask. And just to know up front, like how, would you ask like, what is the youth ministry budget? Or do you think going too far? Do you think someone?
No, I think it's appropriate.
Oh, really? Do you think so?
To ask for the whole thing.
I've asked for that a bunch of times.
Yeah. Just say straight out like, what was last year's budget for youth ministry?
So
I can get a sense.
I would be prepared to share yours too if you're already in a youth ministry position too. I think that's pretty powerful.
Yeah. What was the other one? What is the biggest challenge your parish is facing currently? I think that's a really good one too, which also shows that you care about youth ministry in the context of the greater parish, that you care about not just this job that you're going to come in and do, but you care about the greater parish. You care about the community. What's the biggest challenge you're facing? And that could be attendance declining. It could be kids not coming back after confirmation. It could be all sorts of things. It could be just like the city is, recovering from some event or something. So I think that's a really important question to ask. I think we've kind of covered a lot of them. I mean, how big was last year's confirmation class? If you haven't already researched that.
Sure.
Are there any other ones?
I would just, this is kind of like post the interview, when decisions are happening and maybe they send you an offer letter or things like that, but they communicate something to you that's going to be part of the job that's not on the employment contract or things like that. I would get everything in writing of things that were communicated to you, even if it's just like dreams of the future. Because you don't want to get into a situation where it was communicated to you that things are going to be happening this way, or you're going to have this kind of influence, but then that just never happens. Because if it's not in that job description, then whatever was said to you, like there's no obligation to uphold that too. And maybe things are just said offhand, but it really sparked something in you, and you really held on to it. You really remembered it, but maybe somebody just said it just offhand, and maybe they didn't mean it, but. Maybe that's one of the reasons why you're really interested in the parish. And so I would really get everything in writing and confirmed. And I think that also begs the question of when do you talk numbers?
That's what I was just going to say is like, when do you talk the salary?
Yeah.
Like, do you feel like sometimes pastors will just come out and say it? What are your salary requirements? I think a lot of times people want you to just email that in a follow-up if they really like you. They're going to say.
I would feel out the situation for sure. Feel it out, because if they ask in a room full of people that is like comprised of like even just other parishioners, maybe people who aren't on staff, or maybe there's some other people there who would just be coworkers, wouldn't be your director. Like then somebody messed up, and just say like, I would love to hear back from you guys to see if I would be a good fit here. Again, I love that this parish is pursuing X, Y, and Z. I would love to be a part of that team. Let me know if I'm on the team, coach. And I would love to discuss that later, if you all don't mind. I hope I'm not being rude.
And I would not, like, another thing I really want people to hear is that, well, first of all, please do not accept a salary that makes you uncomfortable or puts you in a compromising position just because you hear other youth ministers or other people at other churches talking about how little they get paid.
Sure.
I've seen this in like forums and conversations, and I've heard youth ministers who feel like, well, that's just how it is. I saw one person who said that she was in an interview she was some type of associate youth minister or a DRE or something. And the youth minister in the interview said, I think I should at least get paid whatever the going rate is for a teacher, because teachers don't really get paid that much. And it's kind of a similar kind of field. And in this forum, she was like, oh, I laughed at that because we would never get paid that much. And I was just thinking like, please, please, please do not put your family or anyone in a compromising situation just because that's what church workers make.
If you get a formal like offer letter too, like just know that everything is still negotiable.
Yeah, 100%.
I would counter.
Yeah,
like actually do it, and that's not rude to do.
Yeah,
like it's not like that you're rejecting like a gift from our Lord. Like no, like it is purely a business side of things. And I remember at the time when I was first coming back here to this diocese, ended up working with you at St. Francis, like I had 2 other offer letters, and I remember that one of them like was it was lower, and I remember the day that I signed my college signing or whatever that I signed with you guys at St. Francis. I got a call from the associate pastor at one of them just saying, hey, I don't know what the pastor offered you, but I just want to let you know anything's negotiable.
Wow.
And he's like, I really want you here. And this was a voicemail too, because I got the call while I was with you guys. It was a voicemail, and he was just like, I want you here. I think you'd be like X, Y, and Z.
Season tickets to the Rangers.
But when he said, just know like anything's negotiable, like that like opened my really young eyes to like, whoa, like, I guess I could have countered. Like not that I had any regrets about going to St. Francis. I loved it, you know, but just whatever that offer letter is, at least consider countering.
And I don't think you should just ask ridiculously high. I mean, but at the same time, if you overshoot and they say, hey, that's not, if they really want you and you overshoot on the salary, if they ask for you to say your salary needs first, there's nothing wrong in overshooting and them saying, wow, that's really high, we can't do that. And then you coming down like, I mean, there's nothing bad about that. I mean, I remember talking to a pastor who said, that he got his youth minister up to a livable salary for the city he was in. And he said it was super easy because he went to the pastoral council and everyone on the pastoral council was making 6 figures and living in this like very like upper end, like, or what do you call it? Like upper class city. Yeah. And was basically like, we're paying this youth minister like nothing. Like why? And so this new pastor that came in, like went to the pastoral council and was like, I want to pay him considerably more. Mm-hmm. Not 6 figures, but just considerably more. And everyone on the pastoral council was like, they knew what it costs to live in that city. They knew the cost of living in homes in that city or renting and all this stuff. And they were just like, well, yeah, sure. So anyways, just the message is not get as much money as possible. The message is like, you are worth this and you're trying to look for sustainable,
sustainable yes.
long-term director of youth ministry position. Okay. So the last piece in all of this, is this whole portfolio method. This is my favorite.
Okay,
I love this.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you should also, I mean, we've talked a little bit, we didn't cover it, but I would have like a 5 to 10 minute, just short talk kind of prepared.
Like, doesn't mean you have to give it.
Yeah. It doesn't mean you have to, but just have some type of like, if they just say like, well, give us like, if you got to talk to youth minister or to high schoolers or middle schoolers, like just have some like anecdote, main point, scripture verse or something. But, at the end, after all the questions and you ask questions back and they go, okay, well, this interview went really well. I think this is over the top, but I think this is great advice, is that's when you pull out this thing that you've prepared, which is a document that's probably just 1 page, but it's your plan for what you would want to do at that parish your first 3 years. Doesn't have to be over the top, but just maybe maybe 2 pages of like, let's say it's a parish that's never had youth ministry, first year, recruit volunteers, pitch vision, second year, launch this new program, whatever. Like maybe the parish has had youth ministry for a little bit, but doesn't have a website or doesn't have a really big volunteer team or whatever. Do the best you can and just tell them, hey, this is just based off of looking at your parish, looking at the area. These are just things I'm thinking about. And I want to just show you that this is what I've prepared. This is what I'd be interested in. Like you said, Nick, this all is also determined by what father you would want and what would be best for this parish, but this is just what I thought. And I think that extra mile, like going that extra step and showing, especially if you do care about the position and you really want it, I think going that extra step is worth it. Like, why not? Like, why not sit down for an extra hour and just write out, like, my first 3 years, like year 1, year 2, year 3, here's what I would love to do at this parish. And like, you could even throw in little things. Like, if you feel like, man, I think it was you or someone else that was saying, like, my first 6 months, I just want to go to daily mass often and meet the daily mass goers or whatever. Just like little things that show that you're really thinking about this parish. And it's an opportunity for you to show what you at that parish would look like. And it makes it really easy for the people interviewing you to look at it and go, well, shoot, like, all I have to do is say yes, and this guy's going to start this. Like, he's ready.
I mean, but also like a case-by-case situation too, like know the parish, the pastor, and what their needs are too. Because if they're looking for value immediately, like put your spiritual life second, because I'm sure they want you to have like a really strong one, but they want value first, like in you in production, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's the business side of professional youth ministry.
You could even, based on how the interview went, you could pull it out and just say, hey, like, based on this interview, I have this written here, but I'd probably do this differently based on what you guys are saying. And, we would talk through this, but I just wanted to show you what I was thinking about my first
exactly.
years.
And that I wouldn't make any decision alone, Father, I would consult you with everything. I would have you review everything. And Father, like, if I'm dreaming of anything, I wouldn't want you to sit with me through it unless that's absolutely what you wanted. Like, I'll write it up. I'll have a complete package and I'll hand it to you ready to sign, at anything. So you can review, you mark it up, say yes, yes, no, no, no. Then you redraft it again, then you hand it back. Just somehow sell them on the fact that you're well thought out in ministry, and then you want this parish to have it too. Another backup that document does is that it also communicates things that perhaps you might forget to communicate in the interview too. And also, like, when you leave, they have something tangible to look at that is like you just manifested it on paper too. So if they're ever talking to somebody else about you, they have it.
Yeah, if you're
right there.
If you're really, really passionate and feel really, really called to do retreats, small group discipleship model, and like, one other thing, like testimony-based ministry or something, and you forget to bring it up when you pull out this document, you're like, oh yeah, by the way, like, I really love retreats. I feel really confident in running these. I think this would be a great asset. In the first 3 years, I really want to focus on these 3 areas. And so that's just that's a great way to bring back up. And like you said, you leave them with something that's going to shine, I think, compared to a lot of other people that don't prepare and don't go that extra mile for the interview.
Right. Are we closing out right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think let's just last couple of things were what we look for in a youth minister for hiring. Did you want to go through that?
I think you're better suited for that. The one thing that I just don't want to forget is, like, in your resume, always leave the reader wanting more. So don't oversaturate your resume or cover letter or whatever with just text. Give them the gist, give them or have it be enough to lead them to something else where they could find you. But don't over communicate on the resume or cover letter, leaving you with nothing to talk about in your actual interview. Like, say something that just inspires just more conversation too, of them saying, like, hey, I read this here, like, what kind of work did you do with this place, or things like that, and be ready to talk about it, even with school. Like, you say, okay, you went to the University of so-and-so. What was your favorite class? Be ready to talk about your favorite class and your favorite professor and why. So
that reminds me of
whatever you put on your resume, be prepared to talk about it.
That reminds me of one of the best tips or tricks is that whole 10-second rule. So, like, write up your resume and hand the resume to someone who hasn't seen it yet. Like one of your friends, your sister, some guy on the street. Hand it to them for 10 seconds. Say, hey, this is my resume. Can you look it over? Hand it to them. Count maybe to 10 seconds, and then just take it back and then ask them what they remembered. And if it's not the things that you want someone to just very quickly get from that resume, then restructure it. Maybe you're bolding different things.
Maybe you're using too much Comic Sans.
Yeah, maybe you're using too much. That's a really good tip, even if you're designing flyers or posters or anything. Hand it to someone. With posters and flyers, I would give like maybe 3 seconds because people just walk by and then just take it back and just be like, what did you see? What date was the event going to be on? Just ask some questions. Like, give the resume, take it back. What were their qualifications? What stood out to you? And that's a really great tip because most people are busy. I mean, they're just flipping through. They're not reading it really in detail. So that's great. Yeah. This is a long episode. I think it was really good. I think there's a lot of nuggets in here. Some nugs.
You never closed it out the way you said you were going to close it out about what you were looking for.
Yeah, I mean, just real quick. Yeah, just real quick. Like what I'm looking for in a youth minister is, and I love Pat Lencioni. He has a book called The Ideal Team Player, where he talks about the ideal team player in a work environment is someone who's hungry, humble, and smart. And so like you can, it's not necessarily about having the right expertise and being an expert or being super talented. As long as someone is hungry, meaning like they're passionate about this, it's more than just a job. I mean, I think we've talked about this a little bit, but it's more than just a job. Like this is a missionary call. They're hungry for this. They're open to learning more and they're excited about their job. Humble. They're not afraid to ask questions. They're not afraid to say, I don't know. That's like huge red flag. If I feel like someone can't talk about things they don't know or is pretending to know everything. And then smart just means not that they're super smart. It just means that they're thoughtful and maybe self-critical or not self-critical. I mean like self-reflective. They're thoughtful. They're self-reflective. I think if you're asking some of these questions, like you're being reflective. Wait, reflective? Reflectful? Thoughtful. You're just being thoughtful.
Reflectable.
Yeah, smart. Like you don't want to work with someone who's just like going through the motions and not thinking too deeply about what they're doing. So those are really big things. And then the last one is for me personally, and not every parish is going to be this way, but I'm looking for someone that has a personal relationship with Jesus. Oh. And I think that's hard to interview for, but I think if you can give an opportunity to share, I mean that you really love the Lord and that this isn't just a job, that this isn't just something you're not just seeing yourself as a teacher, So those are some big ones. And I do now, if I'm in youth ministry interviews, I do surprise them with a 5-minute talk that they have to give with no preparation. Yeah. I slide Faith is looking at me like, oh my gosh. I slide a topic across the table and I say, all you have is you can use your phone, a Bible, and a catechism. I'm pretty sure that's all I give them. And I say, you have 5 minutes to prepare a 5-minute talk.
You're a monster.
And then I give them an audience. So like with Tim, I slid across the incarnation, and I said your audience is high schoolers, and I said now we know that it's not going to be amazing that you only had 5 minutes to prepare, but that's the purpose of this exercise. We want to see what you do. Like just see what you do. Here's a catechism, a Bible, piece of paper, and a phone.
Yeah, that's the worst. He's the worst. He's the worst, right?
Just
sounds horrible.
Guys, but I think if Edmund Mitchell's ever interviewing you and he says incarnation, just say hypostatic union like 4 times.
What I was looking for is with a youth minister, it's really, really important that they have the ability to communicate in front of people, and especially so that puts them under stress. It sees what they come up with like just out of them. It just has to come out of them. They can't over prepare for it. They can't read off of a piece of paper very much, and they're in one of the most stressful environments they probably will ever be.
You're a monster.
I loved it. It was very, very
horrible
fun.
Person.
It's so fun. And I've done that twice so far. Did it with Sam as well.
So mean.
It's so great. It's not mean. It's so fun. Anyways,
That's mean.
Yeah, I know it's stressful.
That's
Anyways,
mean.
This is a long episode, but I think this was very, very good. What do you say, Faith? Do you have a question? Yeah, go for it.
Oh. Yeah. As you're talking about like interviewing and preparing for interviews and stuff, there's like the different steps of interviews. Like typically it's like phone call, maybe Skype interview,
round 1,
and then person interview. So like when you're talking about these different things, can you like elaborate on like which parts would be pertinent for like which steps in the process? You know what I mean?
Yeah. What do you think,
like,
Nick?
Some of it like doesn't pertain to like Skype interviews, but if that's like your only interview, then maybe it is like you need to,
Yeah. So, I mean, oftentimes there might be some type of phone call. Like someone just says, hey, do you have time for a phone call? I would ask, like, is this the interview? Like, I would just say, like, is this going to be the interview? So I'm prepared. But a lot of times people just want to reach out just to like touch base with you and make sure, like, vet you before they set up a full, like, the pastor's going to be there, these people are going to be there. So I think then it's either going to go to Skype or it's going to go to in person. But what would you say, Nick?
Yeah, no, I'm having trouble coming up with something like on the spot too. All that I'm thinking of is just like practical stuff too. I would ask for like, what are the next steps after this? Like, what is the timeline? I guess I don't know. And I'm always just going back to like extracting out of them what they're looking for, and then using that to your advantage to communicate where your gifts are.
Yeah.
You know, and so I'm not saying that you're just manipulating the conversation. I'm saying that you're figuring out what they need, and if you can provide value, you articulate how you specifically can do that immediately. But then also, you know, just like it could be a catch-22, also like leave them wanting more, you know, like of you or hearing back from you too.
Yeah. And I would say in the phone interview, or if you had a Skype interview, I mean, like if they're saying, well, we want to get you on a Skype call, I would advocate for having a chance to go out in person. And if they don't bring it up, I would say it. Like I would want to come out in person. Is that something that's possible? And we've talked before about kind of the red flag if they're not willing to do that at all. But I think it depends. Like there might be 30 people that they're interviewing, and they're going to wait till they get to a certain round to let you know that they'll bring you out. So, but that's a really good point. I would bring that up if there's going to be a phone call, like, because I think I've heard of people going onto the phone call and not realizing, and then there's like 3 people in the room. And it's like, all right, we're here for the interview. And you're like, oh, I thought this was just a quick touch base. Yeah. So good point. All right. That's it, guys. Is that all we got?
That's all we got. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Check us out on the internet.
Yeah. CatholicYouthMinistryPodcast.com. Send us a DM. Let us know what you think about this. Tell us probably your worst interview situation.
Yeah.
And what you did to like overcome that.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be amazing.
That'd be really awesome.
Oh, and I just wanted to mention the quick start kind of course we have that I think would help you as you're preparing for interviews too. It's just like these kind of 3 really key mindset shifts about youth ministry. It's called the Youth Ministry Mindset course, and kind of walks through these 3 key, I guess mindsets to have about youth ministry. I think it's really helpful. So you can find that at CatholicYouthMinistryPodcast.com/mindset, maybe. I think that's where it is. Our producer says that's where it is, so that's where it is. So yeah, thanks guys for tuning in. Good luck on the job search.
Peace.